Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, October the 7th. We have a Category 2 Hurricane Milton in the southwestern part of the Gulf of Mexico. All indications are that it will intensify into a major hurricane as it crosses the Gulf of Mexico and heads towards the west coast of Florida, likely making a landfall somewhere near the Tampa Bay region on Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening, perhaps still as a major hurricane. We'll go through a lot of the details over the next several minutes here. Again, this is a serious situation potentially for the Tampa Bay region because landfall, especially just to the north of the Tampa Bay region, would enhance significantly the storm surge right in the bay itself. Let's go through some of the details right now. Here's the location of Milton here on Monday morning. Maximum sustained winds at 100 miles per hour. That puts it in Category 2 classification right now. It looks like it will move in a general direction like this over the next 12 to 24 hours or so, likely becoming Category 3, perhaps even Category 4 major hurricane at some point across the Gulf of Mexico, and then move in a fashion like this and end up somewhere around this region. This is Tampa Bay right here, this little area right here. That's the Tampa Bay region of the west central part of Florida's Gulf Coast. The hurricane could very well be right around that area, let's say Wednesday afternoon into Wednesday evening. Now, let me clear the pages right here. We've talked about the storm surge typically being more significant to the right side of a landfalling hurricane. So if the hurricane ends up let's say making landfall right in this area, then that would put this part of the coast in the typically the worst area for storm surge. The reason is you have the additive effect of the forward speed of the storm, which is moving in this direction in this particular case, combined with the surface winds that on the right side of the surface low pressure center would be pushing water inland in this particular case. So we have a map in a moment here that kind of shows that a little bit more clearly. But again, the landfall is critical in terms of the storm surge. If indeed the hurricane ends up going a little bit farther to the south, then that would put the storm surge a little bit down the coast of Tampa Bay and making it more significant in the southwestern coastal region of Florida. Those final details, exact landfall, still to be determined, still about 48 hours away, but certainly in and around the Tampa Bay region is on the table here. Now, before we leave this particular map, by the way, this is from NOAA's National Hurricane Center. There are a couple of Atlantic Ocean hurricanes right now as well, Kirk and Leslie. Let me point out that once it makes landfall, indications are it will continue to move to the north and east out over the open waters of the southwestern Atlantic Ocean. Unlike Helene, which, as you may recall, it was not too long ago, arrived here right in the Big Bend region of Florida, then continued to push to the north and basically stalled out right here over the Tennessee Valley, leading to some tremendous rainfall amounts over the southern Appalachians. It is these stalling out hurricanes that often lead to severe flooding. In this particular case, it was Helene over the southern Appalachians. You may recall that Florence stalled out as it kind of dropped to the south and west over the eastern part of North Carolina. Kind of a very slow moving or stalling Florence ended up causing some serious flooding across the Carolinas. Harvey stalled out over the southeastern part of Texas right here, ended up causing severe flooding in the Houston, Texas area. Could go all the way back here. Let me kind of clear the page here. I remember Tropical Storm Agnes back all the way back in 1972. It was a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. Basically rode up along the eastern seaboard and weakened and stalled out right over the northern part of Pennsylvania. This is back in June of 1972. Led to severe flooding over Pennsylvania as an example of another stalling out kind of a hurricane system here. So at least one bright spot here is it looks like Milton will not stall out over Florida, but will rather move on a pretty consistent path across the peninsula into the southwestern part of the Atlantic Ocean. Well, I wanted to show this map that I found out there on the internet of past hurricanes that have taken this kind of a track, let's say from the southwestern Gulf of Mexico towards the east northeast into the state of Florida. It is not all that common. In fact, as best I can tell, the last one that took a kind of a similar track is Earl right here, 1998. You can kind of follow this going all the way out into the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, right originated out in this area and ended up going across the northern part of Florida. So this kind of a track from the southwestern Gulf of Mexico into the west central part of Florida is not all that common. It's not unprecedented, but it is certainly not all that common for this part of the Atlantic Basin. Well, I want to go through a few different computer forecast models right now. This first one is a NOAA model that's specifically meant for hurricanes. And this is beginning here on Sunday evening, early Monday morning with a 9:57 center here. Again, it's a Category 2 hurricane right now. What we're going to do is just push forward, and what we're looking at is as this moves over the Gulf of Mexico over the next day or two into Wednesday afternoon. Now, the first thing to notice, the millibars drop significantly all the way down to 905, 903, 900 into the 800s, 897 millibar low here by tomorrow evening on this particular model, again specifically designed for hurricanes. That is a powerful hurricane, a major hurricane classification. Then we go farther out in time and we're closing in on Florida's west coast, and here we go. This is Tampa Bay region right here. This is the midday on Wednesday forecast map by this particular model. Now, here's the situation right here as of Wednesday evening. And this is what I'm talking about when I point out the additive effect of the forward speed of the storm combined with the surface winds, that in this particular scenario here with landfall just to the north of Tampa Bay, and this is Tampa Bay right here. Look at these winds blow counterclockwise around lows. So you can kind of follow the wind flow by using these isobars right here. Here we go on the right side or the east side of this kind of a track right here. It's moving in this direction. This is moving basically from southwest to northeast. Look at this wind flow right here, and that is out of the southwest, and that would push water higher and higher right into Tampa Bay from the eastern Gulf of Mexico. So again, this is what is perhaps a worst case scenario for Tampa Bay with landfall just up the coast, and again that would cause a high storm surge right in Tampa Bay itself with those surface winds pushing the water inland, combined with the forward speed of that storm that enhances the potential storm surge in Tampa Bay. Now, it's not guaranteed by any means yet that this storm system does make landfall just to the north of Tampa Bay. Let's clear the page here and go out a little bit farther in time here. And here we go. This does indeed put it just to the north of Tampa Bay. It's not universal amongst computer forecast models. Some indications are it could go farther south. We'll just have to wait and see over the next 48 hours or so. And then it continues to cross the peninsula of Florida out into the open waters of the southwestern Atlantic. So unlike Helene, which pushed to the north through the state of Georgia and then stalled out over the Tennessee Valley, this looks like it will continue to move to the north and east out towards the southwestern Atlantic Ocean. Now, let's kind of shift from that kind of specific model for hurricanes to more synoptic scale models, which when you're this close to the event certainly provide some useful information. This is the European model, and then we'll take a look at the GFS model. This is as of last evening. Then we'll move forward here, and again, all indications are it'll move to the east for a while and then to the north and east towards the west central part of Florida. This is the European model from last night. Here we are on Tuesday morning, 981 millibar low, and now it starts to make that turn to the north and east. Again, this is Tampa Bay right here, and we get into the day on Wednesday. Here we go on Wednesday morning. a hurricane closing in on the west central coast. Higher in terms of the central pressure, in other words, a little bit weaker than that hurricane model just depicted here. And it goes right towards the Tampa Bay region. This is late in the afternoon on Wednesday, and here we go, pretty much right over Tampa Bay as a 978 hurricane at this particular time on Wednesday evening. It then kind of crosses the state. Certainly high impact situation here for central and eastern Florida, especially in the central part of Florida here, as this crosses over the state and then ends up moving out over the southwestern Atlantic Ocean. Now let's wrap up with the 0Z GFS model run. This is kind of an outlier compared to some of the other forecast models, but I wanted to throw this out there as a scenario because it's a little bit different for sure compared to the European. Here we go on the GFS model for tomorrow evening, and then we go into the day on Wednesday. Here we are on midday on Wednesday, again Tampa Bay, right in this area right here. And this pushes a little bit farther to the north, up the coast from Tampa Bay. Not a good situation for Tampa Bay by putting them in the right side of that landfalling hurricane here. And then it goes a little farther north, and the other models kind of into the northern part of Florida, and spreads some heavy rain along the Georgia and even the southeastern part of South Carolina coastline here. Strong storm here by the time we get into Thursday. Then it pushes it out into the open waters of the southwestern Atlantic. So the GFS is a little bit farther to the north compared to some of the other models, and those fine details will just have to be ironed out over the next day or two. But again, all indications are that Milton, now Category 2 storm, will intensify into a major hurricane, at least Category 3, potentially Category 4, on its way over the very warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, likely to approach the west central Gulf Coast of Florida Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. It certainly can make landfall as a major hurricane somewhere near the Tampa Bay region later in the day on Wednesday. One bit of something we'll have to watch, one bit of potential good news, is that there will be some shear, vertical wind shear in the eastern part of the Gulf of Mexico in those hours before landfall. Hopefully that can help to weaken this storm system before it actually makes landfall. Something we'll have to watch in those closing hours. But again, a major hurricane potentially headed for the west central part of Florida's Gulf Coast for the midweek time frame. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.